You are a conscript in the endless wars of the Imperium, thrust into the meat grinder of the 41st millennium. There is no training, no mercy, only survival in the Emperor's name. February 17th, 998 M41. The troop transport Glory of Vrax hangs in orbit above a world you've never heard of, a dull, gray sphere wrapped in ash storms. Its name doesn't matter. To the Imperium, it's just another war zone. To you, it's where you'll die. The air aboard the ship is heavy with the stench of oil, sweat, and fear. Rows upon rows of bodies cram the metal corridors, millions of them, each wearing the same drab uniform of the Astra Militarum, each clutching a lasgun that feels too heavy for hands that have never fired one. You're one of them, a fresh recruit from some hive city slum, rounded up at gunpoint and promised glory and service. They didn't tell you what that meant. The ship rattles as it cuts through the upper atmosphere. Bulkheads groan. Somewhere deep in the hull something bursts. The sound echoes like thunder through the decks. Nobody reacts. They just stare ahead, waiting for the doors to open, waiting to be thrown out like ammunition. Sergeant Vorek marches down the aisle, his voice cutting through the drone of engines. You lot are 17th Company, 49th Penal Regiment of Vrax. You've been blessed with the Emperor's mercy. You're here to serve him with your blood. You remember his face, not because it's kind, but because of the scars that look like claw marks running from his jaw to his temple. He's seen the Frontlines. He's lived, somehow. He points his power maul at a line of trembling recruits. First drop's yours. You land, you hold the trench, you die if you must. If any of you think of running, he taps the side of his skull, where a small implant blinks red. Your heads will light up brighter than a plasma coil. Your implant hums faintly at the mention. The commissariat made sure every conscript has one. Cowardice is death, literally. The ship jolts again. Warning klaxons howl. Atmospheric breach detected. The Vox operator screams into his headset, voice cracking. Captain, we're taking anti-orbital fire. They've got macro batteries on the ground. Vorek's eyes narrow. Brace for impact. You grab the side of the bench as the world turns upside down. Gravity vanishes for a heartbeat. The ship twists, metal screams, and then silence. The next moment you're on the floor. Red lights flash. The air smells of ozone and blood. Dozens of troopers lie broken across the bay. The drop pod doors are already opening. Beyond them, a hellscape of flame and dust waits. Vorek doesn't hesitate. Move, move. You stumble forward with the others, barely aware of your own legs. The heat hits you like a wall as you step out onto the surface. The sky is a furnace. Black smoke and tracer fire streak across it. Artillery shells fall in the distance, throwing up geysers of mud and bone. Welcome to the Frontlines. You dive into a trench filled with bodies, some alive, some not. A man next to you is missing an arm but still firing his lasgun into the haze. Another is praying, his words drowned out by the roar of battle. You can't tell what he's saying, but the rhythm of it steadies you for a moment. Then the ground shakes. Orcs, someone screams. You look over the parapet and see them, green-skinned monsters charging through the smoke, bigger than men, swinging crude axes that could tear through ceramite. The first wave hits like a tidal surge. Lasfire fills the air, red beams cutting through the storm. The orcs barely notice. They keep coming, bellowing with laughter that drowns out the screaming. You fire once, twice. The lasgun kicks against your shoulder. A massive shape crashes into the trench, smashing the trooper beside you into paste. The smell of iron fills your lungs. You can't breathe. The orc turns, its eyes burning with savage joy. You pull the trigger until the cell runs dry. The creature collapses on top of you, still twitching. Its blood burns your skin. Someone drags you out. It's Vorek. His armor is scorched, his face splattered with green gore. You still breathing, conscript, he growls. You nod. He shoves a fresh lasso into your weapon. Then fight. because this is just the first wave. The bombardment resumes. Explosions tear the horizon apart. The Vox crackles with desperate voices. Entire companies wiped out in minutes. You catch fragments. Delta line collapsing. We need reinforcements before static devours the sound. Hours blur together. You don't remember when the sun set. You only remember the endless noise, the stink of blood, and the weight of the dead piling around you. At some point, your unit falls back to the second line. There's no command, just instinct. You find shelter behind a shattered Chimera transport. Inside, a wounded trooper clutches his stomach, whispering something over and over. They said it'd be easy. They said it'd be quick. His eyes are glassy. They lied. You look down at your own hands. The blood there isn't yours. Vorik finds you again. They're regrouping, he says. We hold this ridge until the 14th armor rolls in. You do that, you live another day. Maybe. The word maybe rings in your skull like a bell. When the next wave comes, it's not orcs. It's silence first. Then movement in the dark, thin shapes, shadows that don't move right. Vorik stiffens. Not Xenos, something worse. You hear the whispers then, like someone breathing just behind your ear. The shadows grow faces, pale and wrong. A hand reaches over the trench wall, slender and clawed. You realize with horror that they're not orcs. They're something out of the warp. Vorik's power maul crackles to life. Hold the line for the Emperor. The creatures descend like smoke. You fight until your arms fail, until your voice breaks from screaming. The trench becomes a nightmare of shadows and blood. You lose sight of the sky. You lose count of the bodies. You don't even know if you're still alive. At some point, the noise fades. You open your eyes to see dawn breaking over the battlefield. Thousands of corpses carpet the plain. The smoke has thinned, revealing the shattered silhouettes of tanks and broken banners. Vorik limps past, dragging a wounded trooper. His armor is gone, his weapon sparking. This was just the landing zone, he mutters. Frontlines still 100 clicks ahead. You stare at him, disbelief hollowing you out. What do you mean? He looks back at you, eyes dead. I mean, we haven't even started yet. The words echo in your skull as the transport ships descend again, bringing more soldiers, more lives to burn. You realize then the truth of it. The war never ends. It only moves forward. And you're part of it now. Forever. The smoke hasn't cleared, and already the order comes down. March. Not forward with banners or engines or the sound of drums, just the clatter of boots through mud, the low hum of Vox chatter, and the quiet whimpering of the wounded who can still walk. The glory of Vrax has gone silent overhead. The fleet's already moved on to the next assault zone. You are on your own. Your regiment, the 49th Penal, has been cut in half. Of the thousands who landed, barely 400 remain. The others are gone, buried beneath the burning dirt or turned into something unrecognizable. Sergeant Vorik limps at the head of the column. His power maul hangs dead at his side, its energy coil cracked. His voice, though hoarse and raw, still carries. We move east to rally with the 14th Armored Division. We keep formation. Anyone who falls behind dies behind. You march. The landscape is a graveyard. Ash drifts from the sky like snow, coating your armor, sticking to your skin. The ground beneath your boots is soft, spongy, not from soil, but from the thick layer of corpses buried beneath the muck. Every step releases a faint, sickly scent of rot and oil. You try not to look at the faces. You fail. Some stare blankly toward the heavens, their eyes filmed white by the dust. Others look like they died mid-scream, mouths frozen open as if still trying to warn the next wave. You're walking over an army of ghosts. A trooper beside you whispers, "We're not marching east. We're walking into the mouth of hell." You don't answer. The truth is, he's right. The Vox reports claim the orcs were only the vanguard. The real enemy lies further inland, a force that's been holding this world for years. Chaos cultists, traitors, the kind that wear human faces until you look too closely. Hours pass. The sky never brightens. You drink from your canteen, lukewarm, metallic water that tastes like it's been recycled 100 times. The man in front of you collapses. No one stops. By dusk, the 49th reaches the ruins of a manufactorum complex. Once it produced tanks for the Astra Militarum. Now it's a wasteland of rusted chimneys and shattered walls. Vorik raises his fist. Halt. You drop to one knee, muscles screaming. The silence that follows is almost unbearable. No gunfire, no wind, just the faint ticking of cooling metal. Vorik gives the order to set up camp, not because it's safe, but because even soldiers need to breathe. You and a few others drag scrap metal to form a perimeter. Someone lights a small promethium torch. The flickering glow throws shadows against the walls, too many shadows. You glance over your shoulder more than once, half expecting to see those things from the trenches again. Corporal Dren sits nearby, cleaning his lasgun with trembling hands. "You ever wonder," he mutters, "why we're fighting here, this planet's dust, nothing left to save?" You shrug. "The Emperor wills it." He gives a dry laugh. "The Emperor wills a lot of things. Doesn't mean we get to understand M." Before you can respond, the Vox operator, Young, barely out of training, calls out from the edge of camp. "Sarge, I've got movement on Auspex. Multiple contacts." Vorik moves fast, scanning the horizon through his cracked visor. "Direction?" "North quadrant, sir. About 100 meters. Could be scouts." "Or could be them," Dren mutters. The sergeant doesn't wait to find out. "Form up, defensive positions." You crouch behind a half-collapsed wall, aiming your lasgun into the dark. Your hands shake. The silence deepens until you can hear your own pulse hammering in your ears. Then, movement. Shapes dart between the ruins. Human silhouettes at first. Then something glints, metal, red lenses, sigils painted on armor. You see the mark, the 8-pointed star. "Traitor guard," someone shouts. The night erupts. Lasfire lights the ruins like a storm of crimson rain. You fire blindly into the haze, every bolt burning holes through the dark. The enemy answers with solid slugs and crackling plasma bursts. Men drop around you, screaming. The smell of burning flesh fills the air. Vorik's voice cuts through the chaos. "Hold the line, they bleed like we do." But the traitors don't fight like men. They move with purpose, coordinated, efficient. Some wear the same uniforms as you, just torn and repainted with blood. One rushes forward, screaming praises to his dark god. You shoot him twice in the chest before he reaches the barricade. He keeps coming. Dren slams the butt of his gun into the man's jaw. The sound is sickening. When it's over, the ruins are silent again, except for the moans of the dying. The air feels wrong, heavy, as if something unseen lingers. You find one of the traitors still breathing, pinned beneath rubble. His armor is scorched, his face half gone. He looks at you with eyes that glow faintly red. "You'll see it soon," he rasps. "All of you, the truth of the war." Vorik kneels beside him and ends it with a single shot. That night you dream of that voice. You wake to distant thunder, artillery fire rolling closer. Vorik's already on his feet, shouting orders. "We move now, leave the wounded. If you can walk, you march." There's no argument. Everyone knows what happens to those left behind. As dawn rises, a blood-red smear across the horizon, you move again. The manufactorum fades behind you, swallowed by fog. The march turns into a crawl. Every kilometer takes an hour. The wounded limp, the rest carry ammunition and broken weapons scavenged from the dead. The Vox operator keeps listening, hoping for contact from command. All he gets is static. Then the screaming starts. The first to go is a trooper named Kellen. He drops his weapon and clutches his head, shrieking. The others try to help him until he starts clawing at his own face. His implant begins to spark. Before anyone can reach him, it detonates. You stand frozen as the others back away. Vorik looks grim. Warp interference, he mutters. Something's close. The wind picks up, carrying whispers. Not words, just sounds, like a crowd murmuring in prayer far away. You see movement again on the ridge to the south. Dozens of figures watching, cloaked, unmoving. The Vox goes dead. Dren swears under his breath. They're following us. Vorik raises his weapon. Keep marching, eyes forward, don't acknowledge them. You do as told, but every instinct in you screams to run. By nightfall, the whispers are louder. Some men start talking to themselves, answering voices only they can hear. One by one, their implants flash red. You lose count of how many are executed before morning. On the third day, the 49th reaches the outskirts of the frontline, the true frontline. You see it before you smell it. A wall of mud and concrete that stretches for miles, broken by craters and blackened tanks. The air itself hums with tension. Beyond it lies a sea of fire and figures too far to count. Vorik raises a hand. "Welcome to the line," he says, voice hollow. You step into the trench. The men already there look at you with empty eyes. None of them speak. Some are missing limbs. Some just stare at the walls, whispering prayers that sound more like confessions. An officer approaches, tall, gaunt, eyes sunken deep into his skull. "Reinforcements?" he asks. Vorik nods. 49th Penal. The officer gives a dry, humorless laugh. "Then you're already dead." He gestures to the horizon. You follow his gaze and your stomach turns. The battlefield stretches endlessly. Rivers of molten rock, piles of corpses forming barricades, titans in the distance, massive silhouettes trading fire with something even bigger. The officer speaks again, voice trembling. "They call this the Dead March. You hold the line until it moves forward, then you march again." You ask, "How long do we hold?" He looks at you with something close to pity. "Until there's no one left to replace us." Night falls again. You dig into the mud, setting up your post. The air stings with static. You glance down the trench where Dren sits staring into nothing. He doesn't look up when he says, "You know what the worst part is?" You shake your head. It's not the dying. It's realizing we've been here before, every war, every world, same faces, same graves. Maybe the warp just keeps sending us back. His voice cracks. You don't answer. Because deep down, you fear he might be right. The ground trembles again. Not artillery this time, something heavier, something walking. The sentry's warning comes too late. A shape emerges through the mist, towering, armored in bone and metal. Its roar tears through the trench, shaking the air. The front lines ignite once more in fire and death. And you realize the march was never to safety. It was only leading you deeper into the nightmare. The sound comes before the sight, an echoing tremor that crawls through the earth and into your bones. The kind of sound that makes the air hum and the sky shudder. It's not just artillery anymore. Something massive is moving toward the trench line, step by deliberate step. The night becomes a shifting fog of ash and embers. Every heartbeat feels like the pause before an explosion. You press yourself against the mud wall, clutching your lasgun tight, your finger locked on the trigger though there's nothing yet to shoot. Sergeant Vorik moves along the line, checking weapons and murmuring orders. The man's more ghost than soldier now, uniform shredded, face crusted with dried blood, but his eyes burn with the kind of discipline only death itself could forge. "Keep your eyes on the ridge," he says quietly. "Whatever that thing is, it's headed straight for us." A blinding flash cuts across the horizon. The shockwave slams into the trench like a hammer, throwing men against the walls. You're on your back before you even hear the explosion. Ears ringing, lungs burning, you claw your way up just in time to see the ridge in the distance collapse in on itself. And out of the dust it comes. A demon engine. It walks like a tank possessed, its hull a grotesque fusion of flesh and iron. Massive claws dig into the soil with every stride, and from its front hangs a dozen human corpses, chained and swaying like a macabre banner. Their faces are frozen in silent screams. Vorik doesn't hesitate. Heavy teams on me, target that abomination. The trenches ignite with lasfare. Red bolts strike the creature's hide, burning tiny holes that close moments later as living metal flows to seal them. The demon roars, a sound that splits the night open. You cover your ears, but it doesn't help. The sound isn't in your ears anymore. It's inside your head. Men start dropping their weapons, screaming. One grabs his skull and slams it against the wall until it bursts. Another fires blindly into the trench, cutting down his own comrades before the implant in his head detonates, ending him instantly. You try to steady your aim, but your vision blurs. The demon's voice whispers through the static in your mind, speaking in a language that feels older than the stars. Promises of power, of release, of peace. And then just as suddenly it's gone, the whispers stop. You look up to see Vorik standing atop the trench parapet, firing a plasma pistol directly into the creature's eye. The shot lands. The demon reels, shrieking. Vorik drops back down just as a torrent of black fire scours the earth where he stood. "Artillery," he yells. "Call in everything we've got." The Vox operator is already screaming into the comm. "This is 49th Penal, Sector 6-4. We need immediate support. Super heavy ordnance. Repeat, super heavy ordnance." Static, then a voice answers, crackling, distorted. "Negative 49th. All batteries engaged. You hold that line, Emperor protects." Vorik slams his fist against the mud wall. "They've abandoned us again." The demon engine raises one claw and the air ripples around it. A moment later, the ground beneath you erupts. You're thrown skyward. For an instant, the world becomes nothing but light and noise. Then you crash back into the trench, landing on a pile of bodies. Something snaps in your arm. You don't feel pain yet, just a cold, distant awareness of it. Smoke fills the trench. Men scream. The demon moves closer, step by step. You can hear the grinding of its gears, the wet slither of its sinews. Dren appears beside you, face blackened by soot. "We're not stopping that thing," he shouts over the chaos. "We run or we die here." Vorik hears him. "You run, you die anyway," he points east. "Reinforcements are 2 clicks beyond that ridge. We hold until they arrive. That's an order." The men obey, not because they want to, but because orders are all they have left. For an hour, maybe 2, you fight. Time loses meaning. The trench becomes a furnace. Every shot, every scream, every breath feels borrowed. The demon doesn't fall. It just keeps coming, unstoppable, inevitable. Then the sky itself splits open. Something roars above you, the engines of a Baneblade tank formation rolling into position on the ridge. The ground trembles under the weight of their approach. For the first time, hope flickers in the ranks. Vorik sees it too. All units fall back to second line, let the armor deal with it. You scramble out of the trench, dragging Dren with you. The world is fire and mud, bullets and screams. Behind you, the Baneblades open fire. The shells tear through the air like thunderbolts, smashing into the demon's torso. The creature staggers. Its roar fades into a shriek of metal and flesh as the second salvo hits. And then, it falls. A mountain of living iron collapsing into the dirt. You're still running when it hits the ground. The impact flings you forward, face first into the mud. Silence. For a heartbeat, there's silence. You push yourself up. The battlefield is a wasteland, smoke columns rising like towers, the sky burning crimson from orbital fire. The Baneblades stand victorious, their cannons still smoking. Vorik limps toward the wreckage, his breathing heavy. "We did it," he mutters. "Emperor above, we actually." The explosion cuts him off. The demon's carcass erupts, flinging molten shards in every direction. One pierces Vorik's chest. He falls without a sound. You crawl toward him through the smoke. His armor is cracked open, the light in his eyes fading. You hear him whisper something soft, almost lost under the distant thunder. Keep moving. Don't stop. Not for me. You want to say something, anything, but before you can, he's gone. The realization hits like a physical blow. The man who kept you alive this long, the voice that carried you through hell, is gone. The 49th is leaderless. Around you, men stagger aimlessly. The chain of command is broken. Someone starts laughing hysterically. Another drops his rifle and just walks into the fog. No one stops him. You take Vorek's tags and his pistol, not out of ceremony but because leaving them feels wrong. Then you do what he told you to. You move. The survivors follow, a handful of them, maybe 30 at most. You march toward the distant lights flickering beyond the ridge. Maybe it's the 14th Armor. Maybe it's just another battlefield. You don't care. You just need to keep moving. As you cross the blasted plain, you pass the wall. At first you think it's just debris, piles of twisted metal and stone. But as you draw closer, you see the truth. It's a wall made of bodies. Human, orc, traitor, all fused together in a single mass. Their flesh hardened, their faces contorted into expressions of eternal agony. Some still twitch. The wall stretches for miles, pulsing faintly like a living thing. Dren stares at it, his face pale. What in the Emperor's name is this? You don't answer, because there are words carved into the base of the wall, scrawled in blood and ash. We hold here, we never leave. The air grows colder. You can hear faint voices coming from the wall, pleading, whispering, praying. Someone in your group drops to their knees, sobbing. They're alive, they're still alive in there. You reach out almost without thinking and the wall moves. Flesh shifts under your hand. Fingers, dozens of them, reach out to grab your wrist. You yank back, heart hammering. Dren fires a burst into the wall. It doesn't even flinch. The last bolts vanish into the flesh without a mark. The whispers grow louder. One voice cuts through the rest, familiar. Vorek's voice. You turn, scanning the darkness. For a moment, you swear you see him standing at the top of the wall, armor whole again, eyes burning with that same relentless fire. Then he opens his mouth and screams. The wall echoes him, thousands of voices screaming in perfect unison. The ground beneath you shakes. The ridge collapses, revealing what lies beyond. You see the real battlefield. Endless trenches, millions of soldiers, titans locked in combat with demons that blot out the sun, ships burning in low orbit, raining debris across the surface. This isn't one planet, it's every planet, every war, every death. And the wall is the boundary between the living and the lost. Dren grabs your shoulder, shouting something you can't hear over the roar. The ground cracks beneath you. The wall pulses, growing, feeding. You run. The survivors scatter. Some vanish into the fog. Others fall, dragged screaming into the wall by unseen hands. You don't look back. You run until your lungs tear, until your legs give out. You fall to your knees, gasping, staring at the horizon. And there, just ahead, you see it. The glow of the 14th Armor Division's lines, the faint shimmer of hope. But as you crawl closer, you realize something's wrong. The tanks aren't moving. The soldiers aren't talking. They're all statues, frozen mid-motion, covered in ash and glass, as if time itself stopped them. You reach out and touch one. His armor crumbles under your fingers. Dren catches up, panting, eyes wide. It's not real, he whispers. None of this is real anymore. He's right. You look up at the sky, where reality itself ripples like a mirage. Warp storms tear through the clouds, painting them with unnatural colors. The war never ends. The front never moves. You're not marching forward. You're marching in circles, trapped in the same moment forever. And somewhere far beyond the smoke, something laughs. The sky bleeds. It's not a metaphor anymore. The upper atmosphere splits open like torn flesh, and from the wound drips fire. The air hums with static and the stench of ozone, and every drop that falls hisses when it touches the mud, each one leaving behind a faint ember that doesn't die out. You and what's left of the 49th huddle among the petrified corpses of the 14th Armor Division. Statues of soldiers who once fought here, now frozen mid-step, faces locked in expressions of terror and confusion. The ash that covers them is warm, as if the fire that made them hasn't finished burning. Dren is pacing again. His lasgun is clutched tight to his chest, barrel twitching with every shadow. "We're not supposed to be here," he says. "We passed the line days ago. This place, it's not part of the war anymore." You don't answer. You're staring at a figure half buried in the mud, a commissar, her bolt pistol still aimed at something long gone. Her greatcoat is half fused to the ground, and her face, her expression, looks as if she realized the truth a moment too late. You pry the pistol from her hand. It's heavier than it looks, still loaded. The others watch you. No one speaks. Then the horizon flashes white. An artillery barrage erupts from nowhere, hundreds of shells screaming through the sky, slamming into the ground miles away. The concussions roll across the wasteland like thunder. The men flinch, out of instinct more than fear. It's the sound of war, a familiar sound, and for a heartbeat it feels almost comforting. Dren looks toward the explosions. That's the line, we're back near the line, maybe command. But the words die in his throat. Because between the flashes of light you see them. Figures marching through the fire, silhouettes against the horizon, rows upon rows, too many to count. The 49th braces, weapons raised. And then, as the figures draw closer, you see the uniforms, the insignias, the broken implants glowing faintly red. It's you. Thousands of soldiers, each identical to your own regiment, marching toward you through the smoke, faces blank, eyes hollow. Dren whispers, "Emperor, have mercy." You open fire, so does everyone else. The Lasphir rips through the air, carving holes through the advancing line, but they keep walking. Every shot hits, but none of them fall. They move like shadows, like echoes. The air ripples around them, bending light, distorting sound. The first wave reaches the ridge. You see their faces now and you recognize them. People you buried, people you watched die. Sergeant Vorik among them. His eyes glow faintly red, just like the rest. You freeze. The dead Vorik lifts his hand, not in salute, not in anger, but as if beckoning you forward. Dren screams and fires at him. The bolt passes through like smoke. The apparition vanishes. The next moment, the entire front explodes into chaos. Something hits you hard, knocking you into the mud. You hear the screech of metal and the roar of engines. Tanks, real ones this time, burst through the haze, their treads crushing the ash statues beneath them. The ground quakes as the 112th Siege Regiment charges forward, their banners still burning from orbital entry. A voice booms through Vox amplifiers. "This world will not fall, for the Emperor." For a moment the battlefield feels alive again. You crawl to your feet as waves of guardsmen surge past, firing into the smoke. The sky fills with Lasphir, tracer rounds, and plasma arcs. The line is reborn. And you, ghost of the 49th, are dragged back into the war. You join the charge, your body moving before your mind catches up. Around you, the living and the dead blend into a single tide. The enemy is everywhere. Chaos infantry, mutants, corrupted armor. The earth itself rebels, splitting open to swallow tanks whole. You fire until the barrel of your lasgun glows red. You reload again and again until you lose track of time. The noise becomes a constant, like the sound of the ocean, if the ocean screamed. The 112th's commander, a grizzled man with a missing arm, shouts for artillery support. You see him rally his troops on a ridge, waving his chainsword. Then a beam of light, pure, focused energy cuts through him. When the smoke clears, there's nothing left but a crater. The line falters. Dren grabs you by the shoulder. We can't stay here, it's a slaughter. He's right. You can see it now, the battlefield isn't stable. It's shifting. The ground ripples like water, trenches opening and closing, corpses rising and sinking. Reality itself is breaking under the weight of too much death. The Vox operator, one of the few still alive, calls out, "We've got signal." High command orders fallback to Bastion Point 3. You follow him, not out of hope, but because staying means vanishing like the rest. The retreat turns into a stampede. Hundreds of guardsmen running through the smoke, pursued by things that don't have names. Some crawl, some fly, all scream. By the time you reach Bastion 3, only a few dozen remain. The bastion is a ruin, once a proud fortress, now a shell held together by faith and sandbags. The gun emplacements are manned by soldiers who look more machine than human, their skin pale, their eyes hollow. A lieutenant meets you at the gate, 49th Penal. You nod weakly. He studies you for a long moment. You're not supposed to be alive. You can't tell if it's a statement or an accusation. He orders the gate sealed. The bastion's walls tremble with every impact from the outside. You climb the ramparts and look out across the wasteland. The enemy army stretches to the horizon, a tide of bodies and machines and demons, all screaming one word in 100 voices: kill. The lieutenant turns to you. We've held this line for 7 years. Every dawn they come again. Every dusk we burn their corpses. You want to survive. Stop asking why. You nod, you stop asking. Days or maybe weeks pass. The siege never stops. The enemy assaults every few hours like a heartbeat of destruction. The bastion's walls hold, but barely. You sleep in shifts, eat when you can, fight when you must. Dren doesn't sleep at all anymore. He just stares into the dark, whispering names you don't recognize. One night during a lull in the bombardment, you hear it again, the whispers, the same voices from the wall. You follow them down into the lower levels of the bastion, past the supply rooms and medici stations. At the very bottom, you find a door sealed with purity seals and chains. The air hums with a faint energy. Dren appears behind you, eyes bloodshot. You hear it too, don't you? Before you can stop him, he starts tearing the seals away. Dren, don't. The last seal breaks. The door groans open. The chamber beyond isn't part of the bastion. Its older stone walls etched with runes that pulse faintly red. In the center of the room lies a hole. Not a pit, not a tunnel, just absence. A wound in reality. From it rises a sound like breathing. Dren steps closer. It's calling us. You grab his arm. It's not the Emperor calling. He turns to you, eyes glowing faintly now. Then maybe it's someone who still answers. Before you can react, he steps into the void. The air collapses. The room screams. You're thrown backward, slammed into the wall. The door slams shut, the chains reknitting themselves as if nothing happened. The whispers stop. When you climb back to the upper levels, the bastion is burning. The final assault has begun. The enemy has breached the walls. Chaos banners flutter over the ramparts. The defenders fight to the last, every corridor turning into a slaughterhouse. You reload your lasgun, raise Vorek's pistol, and wade into the storm. The corridors are filled with smoke and blood. You shoot until you can't hear, can't see, can't think. You kill a traitor with your bayonet and realize, too late, he was wearing a uniform identical to yours. You step over his body and keep moving. You reach the command post. The lieutenant is there, slumped against a console, his chest torn open. He looks up as you enter. The bastion's lost, he rasps. They'll overrun this world within the hour. You kneel beside him. What do we do? He smiles weakly. We do what soldiers always do. We hold the line. He presses a detonator into your hand. If the bastion falls, you make sure they don't take it. You look down at the device. The light on it blinks slowly, steady, patient, waiting. You stay there, sitting among the ruins of command, listening to the walls shake. The enemy is close now. You can hear their footsteps in the corridors. You raise the vox. "This is the 49th Penal Regiment," you say, voice calm. "We're still holding. Tell command the line holds." Static answers. You smile faintly. Maybe it's enough. Maybe that's what the Emperor wanted, to hold, even when there's nothing left to hold for. The walls break. The flood pours in. You press the detonator. Light swallows everything. But when the light fades, you're still there. The bastion stands. The enemy stands. The war still rages. The detonator is gone. You realize with terrible certainty that it can't end. The siege is endless. You wake to the sound of drums. Not the organic kind. These are deep, metallic, synchronized with an unnatural precision. The rhythm reverberates through the stone beneath your back, through the air, through your ribs. Each beat lands with the weight of inevitability, as if the world itself has a heartbeat and you're lying against its chest. You open your eyes to darkness and the steady pulse of crimson light filtering through vents above you. Smoke twists lazily through the air, the scent of machine oil and blood mingling like incense. The bastion is gone, or perhaps it was never there. You're lying on a floor of metal plates, each one engraved with symbols you can't read. The sound of machinery surrounds you, constant and suffocating. You try to move, but your arms don't respond. Your wrists are bound by metal cuffs that pulse with faint light, and you realize you're inside a transport, one of the Mechanicus dropships. Rows of others sit across from you, bound the same way, their faces lit by the flickering red glow. Some wear the remnants of your uniform, others the scraps of regiments long erased from memory. The drums continue. The ship shudders. Then the voice comes, a deep, modulated rumble that fills every corner of the compartment. Subject Batch Delta 74. Condition, viable. Destination, Factory World Calthrax Roman 9. Function, reclamation. The voice fades. The sound of machinery grows louder. The men across from you stare in silence. None speak, none weep. You remember pressing the detonator. You remember the light. You remember dying. So why are you here? The thought forms like a blade in your mind. You turn to the man nearest you, an older soldier with half his skull replaced by augmetics. His eyes glow a faint green. "What is this place?" you whisper. He doesn't look at you, a machine that never stops. The transport jolts violently, throwing everyone forward. You hear the whine of brakes, the hiss of hydraulics, then the doors open. The light outside is blinding at first, cold, sterile, metallic. You blink against it, and the world resolves into a vista of impossible scale. Calthrax Roman 9. A planet made of machines. The horizon is a forest of smokestacks and spires, pumping black clouds into a green-tinged sky. Rivers of molten metal flow between endless forges. Mountains of broken armor and bone rise in heaps, being slowly consumed by crawling servitors. Everything moves. Everything hums. There is no silence. You and the others are herded out by figures in red robes, the tech priests of Mars. Their faces are hidden beneath brass masks, their bodies fused with pistons, tubes, and logic engines. They speak in clicks and binary, their words incomprehensible, their presence cold. One raises a staff etched with the cog mechanicum and points toward a massive gate at the far end of the platform. Reclamation begins. The crowd moves. You move with them. Through corridors of machinery, past furnaces the size of cathedrals. The heat scorches your skin, but no one screams. No one speaks. The sound of the drums follows, echoing through every passage like the ticking of a cosmic clock. You pass by massive vats filled with fluid that churns with broken bodies and shattered armor. Servitors dip mechanical arms into the mixture, pulling out fragments of flesh and metal. Some are still alive. Their eyes flicker open, mouths moving silently before they're dragged back under. Dren's voice echoes in your mind. We're not supposed to be here. You keep walking. Eventually, the line halts before an assembly platform. Above it, a vast construct looms, part temple, part engine, part tomb. It hums with power. Chains descend from its structure, ending in mechanical claws. One of the tech priests steps forward, his robes shifting like molten metal. His voice crackles through a Vox speaker. Imperial flesh is inefficient. Imperium requires endurance. Flesh fails, steel remembers. The claws descend, grabbing the first of your line. The man screams once before his voice is drowned out by the grinding of gears. Metal fuses to skin. Bones are replaced. The air fills with the scent of burning oil and blood. One by one, they are remade. When your turn comes, you don't fight, you don't plead. You simply stare at the machine. It stares back. The claws seize your arms. Pain floods your body as metal pierces flesh, as hot fluid replaces blood, as your nerves are rewired. The process lasts forever and ends instantly. When it's done, you're dropped onto the platform, your breathing replaced by the hiss of hydraulics. You rise unsteadily. Your reflection in the polished steel below shows a face you barely recognize. Half your skull is plated with metal. Tubes run from your spine to a power core embedded in your back. Your eyes glow faintly blue. You are not dead, you are not alive, you are useful. The tech priest approaches. Designation, Penal Servitor 49x21. Assigned function, Siege Construct Operator. Report to Sector 12. He points toward a loading bay, where enormous war machines are being assembled. You walk there, your new limbs heavy but powerful. Dozens of others like you move in perfect synchronization, climbing into the bellies of the titanic constructs. Massive tracked vehicles armed with cannons the size of city towers. Siege machines built to flatten continents. A voice echoes in your head, metallic, omnipresent, commanding. All units deploy. The drums return. The machines begin to move. You feel the vibrations through your spine, through the wires now fused to your nerves. You're part of it now. The machine, the endless cycle of creation and destruction. Outside, the world burns. The siege engines roll across a plain of shattered iron and glass. Enemy fire rains from the sky, but nothing stops the march. You fire the main cannon and an entire mountain range disintegrates. You watch the explosion bloom like a flower made of light. You feel nothing. Hours blur into days, days into cycles. The machine never stops. And slowly, something begins to change. You start hearing whispers again, not from outside but within. Through the circuits, through the metal veins of the construct, voices of those who came before. We built, we died, we were rebuilt. The machine feeds, the machine remembers. The machine cannot stop. The words loop endlessly, echoing like the memory of a nightmare. You try to speak, but your voice is no longer your own. Your mouth moves, but only binary streams come out. You don't even understand what you're saying. One day or cycle or moment, the machine halts. You look through the viewport and see the ruins of another world. Smoke, fire, corpses stacked higher than buildings. The tech priests oversee the harvest, collecting the dead, melting their weapons, rebuilding their bones. Everything goes back into the forges. Nothing is wasted. You realize the truth. The frontlines never end, they only move. Each world becomes another cog in the machine, broken, reforged, broken again. You and the others are its gears, its teeth, its heartbeat. And in that endless rhythm, something inside you rebels. A flicker of thought, a pulse of memory. You remember the faces of the 49th. Dren, Vorek, the commissar, the trenches, the mud, the fear, the humanity. You remember the warmth of sunlight, real sunlight on your face. You whisper to yourself, though the sound is barely more than static, stop. The machine hesitates. Just for a moment. A system alarm blares. The tech priests shout in binary. Sparks rain from your console. The other servitors twitch, caught in loops. You press your hands against the controls. Stop. This time it's not static, it's a word, real human. The engines stutter, the drums falter. The tech priests scream orders, their voices drowned by the growing hum of energy from your chassis. The machine you control begins to glow, power surging beyond limits. The alarms rise to a crescendo. You feel the weight of the world press against you, the pressure of the machine's will, of the Mechanicus, of the Imperium itself. And still you whisper, stop. Then the explosion comes. Light, sound, pain, and silence all at once. When it clears, you're lying on the floor again. The world is quiet. The drums are gone. The sky above is black and empty. The machine is gone. For the first time in what feels like eternity, there is peace. But the peace doesn't last. A voice whispers through the void, not mechanical this time, human, familiar. You held the line. You turn your head. Dren stands beside you, or something that looks like him. His eyes burn with faint light, his expression calm. What happened, you ask? He kneels beside you. You stopped one machine, but the war, the real war, never stops. It just moves on. You look around. The ruins stretch endlessly in every direction. The silence is almost unbearable. What happens now? Dren's eyes narrow. Now you see what's left. He extends his hand. You take it. The metal of your palm feels cold against his. The horizon begins to move again, slowly at first, then faster. Shapes emerge from the darkness. Cities on fire, fleets clashing in orbit, worlds torn apart by endless war. You realize you're not on any planet. You're drifting through memory, through history itself, through the unbroken chain of sacrifice that feeds the Imperium's machine. The voice of the Emperor is silent. The drums are gone. Only the echoes of duty remain. And as the vision unfolds, as the horizon of destruction stretches to infinity, you finally understand. Being sent to the front lines never ends. It's not a deployment, it's a sentence. A cycle of obedience, death, resurrection, and servitude that feeds an empire too vast to comprehend. You were never meant to survive it. You were meant to fuel it. The machine never stops, because the machine is the Imperium itself. And you, one more broken cog, are part of its endless motion. The stars do not shine anymore. They flicker, weak and uncertain, as if exhausted by millennia of watching humanity destroy itself. You drift among them, weightless, a fragment of something once human and once proud. Below, worlds burn in slow motion. Oceans boiling, continents cracking, cathedrals collapsing under bombardment that hasn't stopped in 10,000 years. Your body no longer feels pain, but it remembers it. Every nerve, real or replaced, still hums with the ghosts of 1,000 frontlines. The machine's voice, once deafening, has gone silent. The silence is worse. It feels like the pause between two heartbeats before the next blow falls. Then faintly a sound returns, not drums, not gears, breathing. You open your eyes. You're standing in a trench. The mud is black, slick, and warm beneath your boots. The air is thick with smoke and iron dust. Everything smells of cordite and decay. You recognize the world. It's not a specific place, but an amalgamation of every battlefield you've ever fought on. The walls of the trench pulse faintly, as if alive. The sky glows red with the reflection of 1,000,000 fires. Someone is calling your name. You turn. Vorik stands there whole again. No scorch marks, no hollow eyes, no scars. His uniform is immaculate, his voice steady. You're late, he says. The line S about to fall. You look down at your hands, they're flesh again. Human, warm, you can feel your heartbeat. You want to speak, but the words catch in your throat. What is this? You whisper. Vorik shoulders his lasgun. It's the front, it's always the front. He climbs the ladder, disappearing over the edge of the trench. You follow, though every instinct screams to stay. The moment you crest the top, the world erupts. The sound of artillery is deafening, each explosion shaking the sky itself. Beams of plasma carve through the horizon, cutting silhouettes of soldiers into the light. The air is filled with the scream of engines, the roar of bolters, the shriek of dying men. But there's something different about this battlefield. Every face you see, every comrade, every enemy is someone you've known. The dead of the 49th, the soldiers from Bastion 3, even the servitors from Calthrax Roman 9. All of them fighting again endlessly, dying again and again. Each time their bodies fall, the ground swallows them, and new ones rise to take their place. It's a cycle, a loop. You fire your weapon out of instinct, but nothing happens. The lasgun hums, but no light emerges. You look at it, it's melting in your hands, turning into liquid light that drips to the ground and seeps into the mud. Vorik appears beside you again, untouched by the chaos. You can't fight it anymore, he says quietly. Fight what? You shout over the thunder. The war, he answers. It's bigger than us, it's older, it doesn't end, we only feed it. The words hit harder than any explosion. You feel something twist inside you, fear, anger, understanding. Vorik continues, we are its memory. Every soldier who ever died for the Imperium, every drop of blood spilled in his name, it all stays. It never fades. You thought the machine was the end. It was just another beginning. He points to the horizon. There, rising from the smoke, is a shape that defies comprehension. Not a fortress, not a titan, something larger. A mountain of skulls and steel, crawling with banners, weapons, and voices. A construct made of every war that ever was. Its towers are cannons, its veins are trenches, its heart a burning sun. The machine that never stops has evolved. It's become something divine or close to it. The Imperium calls it victory, Vorik says, but look closer. You do, and you see the truth. The faces that make up the mountain surface aren't carved, they're alive. Millions of souls fused together, eyes glowing faintly, mouths open in eternal screams. Each one feeding the next, layer upon layer of sacrifice. You take a step back, no. Vorik nods. Yes, this is what it means to win. He hands you something, a data slate cracked and flickering. Its surface shows endless columns of numbers, regiment designations, world names, casualty counts, billions upon billions. Every number blinks once, then vanishes, replaced by new ones. You scroll down, your heart pounding. Then you see it, your own designation. 49th Penal Regiment status, reclassified function, reclamation biomass. That word again, reclamation. The Imperium doesn't let anything go to waste, not even its soldiers. You drop the slate, it dissolves into ash. The sky tears open again. From the rift descends something enormous, a ship the size of a continent, its hull made of bone and metal. Its engines burn with the light of dying suns. On its prow, the symbol of the Aquila gleams but twisted, each head facing in opposite directions, one toward the void, one toward the past. It lands not with impact but inevitability. The earth doesn't shatter, it accepts it. From its hull, golden figures emerge, custodians, silent, perfect, radiant. They walk through the battlefield untouched, each step turning the mud to glass. The fighting stops, even the demons retreat. You watch as one approaches, his armor etched with runes of power, his face hidden behind a mask of serene indifference. His voice is calm, like the eye of a storm. You have done your duty. You stare at him. Duty, the word tastes hollow. We died, we were rebuilt, we became machines for what? The custodian studies you, tilting his head slightly. For the survival of mankind. You laugh, you can't help it. Mankind, look around you, there's nothing left. He glances at the burning horizon. There is always something left. The Emperor wills it. You step closer, defiance rising. And what happens when the will breaks? The custodian's eyes, hidden behind the mask, seem to glow brighter. It doesn't. It cannot. You think you understand war because you've lived it, but war is the Emperor's breath. It is the rhythm of existence. You, soldier, are part of his exhalation. He raises his hand. Light pours from his palm. You feel the air vibrate, molecules rearranging. The world begins to dissolve again. Mud into light, light into memory. Your war continues elsewhere, he says. You will serve until there is nothing left to save. You try to move, to resist, but your body disintegrates into particles of energy. The battlefield folds into itself, swallowed by the void. And then silence. When you open your eyes, you're on a ship, not the dropship from before, something far grander. The interior glows with golden light, walls lined with banners from thousands of campaigns. Statues of saints and heroes line the corridors. The air hums with power, with sanctity, with faith. But there are no people, only armor, empty, lined up in perfect rows as if waiting for their owners to return. You walk past them, your footsteps echoing. You reach the command deck. The viewport shows the galaxy, a swirl of endless conflict, each world burning with the same cold fire. The custodian stands at the center. You are in transit, he says. Where? He gestures toward the stars, to the next war. You shake your head. There's no end, is there? He looks at you. No end, only purpose. You step closer, and what if purpose becomes madness? He doesn't answer. Outside, the stars begin to shift. You see them blink out one by one, consumed by growing voids. It's not chaos this time. It's entropy, the slow collapse of everything. You realize what's happening. The galaxy itself is dying. The custodian watches without emotion. The end of all things was always inevitable, but even the end must be fought. He turns to you. You will lead the vanguard. You stare at him, unable to speak. Then slowly he raises his hand and touches your forehead. The light burns not painfully but deeply through every memory, every scar. You see your life flash again. The mud, the bastion, the machine, the explosion, the endless war. And then a new vision. You see yourself standing before a gate of light. Behind it, not heaven, not the warp, something else. Stillness, peace, the thing you've been denied for eternity. You reach for it. But the custodian's voice anchors you back. Not yet. You fall again. Through fire, through screams, through the shattered fragments of the galaxy, until once more you're standing in a trench. The mud, the smoke, the drums. It all begins again. Only this time you understand. This isn't punishment, it's preservation. The Imperium keeps its soldiers alive not out of mercy but necessity. Every battle you fight, every death you endure, fuels the next victory, however small. You are not meant to end the war. You are meant to be the reason it can continue. You are its foundation. The horrifying reality of being sent to the front lines is not that you might die, it's that you might never stop dying. You look up at the burning sky, and for the first time, you don't pray for salvation. You simply whisper the only truth that remains. The war outlives us all. And somewhere in the distance, the drums begin again. Thump, thump, thump. Unstoppable, eternal.